Hello, Charlie TCG here, and welcome back to my channel. As you know, Obsidian Flames is out now, and honestly, it's super exciting. There are some really unique, some deck ideas, and one importantly is Chien-Pao, my favorite archetype, could potentially go to be a tier 1 archetype because one card has got released. What is that one card, you wonder? Well, that is Pidgeot EX. Pidgeot EX is the amazing quick search ability. We get to search your deck for any card you want to have and put it to your hand, shuffle deck afterwards. Don't need to reveal it, and you can use one of those per turn. This is powerful because beforehand, Chien-Pao would rely a lot on Arceus, so having a Pidgeot line as well means you can unlock Palkia as a Star Portal ability to flood more water energies in there. Really help with the consistency of Chien-Pao. It's already doing very well in Japan, normally being about the second to third most played archetype over there, and that will definitely continue to have success over here because it's very, very popular in the online tournaments. Lost City can really help benefit this matchup. Instead of going a more turbo build, you can go with the Lost City to really help your Lost Box and Guardian matchups, getting rid of potentially two Comfies or even the double Sableye, or more importantly, two Curliers. This can really put Chien-Pao ahead of the prize trade. Yes, it is still weak with only really focusing on two prize attackers, but this list here, I've got a little bit of a spicy type, which can really help with your Gardevoir matchups and other matchups overall. So if you look here, it's very consistent to where we're seeing most of these deck archetypes. So let's look into kind of talking about why we play this counts. 3 copies of Chien-Pao is definitely the must in this sort of deck here. Shivering Chill gets any 2 water ranges from your deck is really, really powerful. And obviously the Hailblade does 60 damage for the amount of water range you discard for your Pokemon in play. How can we load up the energies? Well, we have Baxcalibur, that super cold ability, pretty much attaches many water energies from your hand to your Pokemon in play. You have 5 energies, you're doing 300 damage. 6 energies, you're doing 360 damage, which pretty much KOs every single Pokemon in the field. So that's pretty much what you always need to have. The goal is 6 energies to KO any single Chien-Pao. Palkia is also an amazing, like I mentioned with Star Portal, to flood the water energies from your discard pile. But it also is really good attacking. That Subspace Squirrel doing 260 damage if the entire bench is full on both sides. It's still pretty decent. I know it's not KOing most sort of attacking options, but it's a really good like beef up HP. That's 60 more than what Chien-Pao has, and that can potentially help in certain matchups. The 3-3 line of Baxcalibur is definitely what you need. You can't really afford to go to a 3-2 line. I've tried that, but in case any of your Baxcalibur's prize, more likely I have had 2 Frigibass, 2 Baxcalibur prize, and it can be really detrimental. Radiant Greninja is definitely one of the stellar cards in the store deck. Conceal cards is amazing energy to get into the discard pile and drawing 2 cards, but that Moonlight Shuriken ability. With Lost City and with cancelling clone options, it can really help to potentially get gust up the mana fee and KO 2 Curliers or 2 Comfies or potentially a Sableye on the bench and put it into the lost zone. Yes, you might in fact lose your Greninja going into your next turn, but if you can clear out two of your opponent's Pokemon while using a single prize attacker, it's really strong. Now onto their tech, which probably you guys have seen here. It's Wishy-Washy. And honestly, through my testing and theorizing, Wishy-Washy is really, really helpful. Now you may look at it, it's 30 HP Pokemon. This can easily die to Sableye, but it has an ability if it's got 3 water energies attached to it. It has 150 more HP. 180 HP is pretty good on a basic Pokemon, is really strong, and it's attacked with 30 plus 30 more water energies attached to Wishy-Washy. If we have 4 energies attached to it, we're doing an additional 120 more damage. That's 150, which is really powerful because not only can it KO a load of these single prize Pokemon, but more importantly, it can KO the likes of Greninja and Gardevoir at full HP, which is where Chien-Pao can really struggle. If you trade in with a Chien-Pao, your opponent's most likely going to get another KO on that, and you only get 1 prize card. But if you trade in potentially a Radiant Greninja, then followed by a Wishy-Washy, this can really help in that style matchup, and it doesn't require a load of energies. You could also think about, well, Kyogre does 180 damage, but that's only really to the bench, while Wishy-Washy for 4 energies does 150, which I think is still pretty powerful, and because Baxcalibur only is 130, it can really help in that style matchup. Luminion as well is really powerful. That Luminion is designed to get any of your supporter cards, gain that Irida turn 1 if you go second, or that boss's orders for game later on, and it has a really good attack, 120 damage, and shuffle it back into the deck. Now this is where you guys have been talking about, the 2-2 line of Pidgeot. Now because we always play Rare Candy in the deck, you just up the Rare Candy count, we play a 2-2 line for one specific reason. We don't want to worry about if case any of the guys are prized, and more importantly, if one gets KO, we can easily get one set up. Yes, being 60 HP and not the really good Pidgey from 151 is a little bit detrimental, but I generally think it's still really powerful. You really need to have these two ofs in there, purely because you want to try and get it set up on the bench. You could argue potentially a Bibarel in the deck, but I do think the Pidgeot is really powerful. And obviously mana for you desperately need, because a lot of the decks play Radiant Greninja and you want to protect you from your side. Item cards, 1 Heavy Ball, 1 Escape Rope, 1 Super Rod, and 1 Cancelling Clone are our good one-offs. Heavy Ball, because I've done a few games where I've prized a couple of Frigibass and you only have 1. Yes, it's still winnable, but if you've got quite a few more one-off attackers, you want to easily get them as quick as possible. Escape Rope, because this is our gusting effect. Because which is quite powerful in a way. Pidgeot can pretty much KO any of the stall archetypes there from turn after turn. You want to kind of like get this out of the way as quick as possible. So I think Escape Rope is really powerful. Super Rod, because I really find Super Rod is really powerful. Kind of putting in those water energies is really good because you can reuse your Chien-Pao's ability and also potentially some other attackers. And the Canceling Clone is exactly the good play. Boss's Orders plus Canceling Clone is honestly incredible. Bossing up a Mana Feed, Canceling Clone, Radiant Greninja, Water, Moonlight Shuriken, KO loads of Pokemon on the bench is really, really powerful. Searching cards, we play 2 Nest Ball, 3 VIP Pass, and 3 Ultra Ball. Now, the reason I've gone down to 3 VIP Pass, because honestly, I'm generally debating even cutting VIP Pass and going full on the Ultra Ball, Nest Ball sort of route here. But Battle VIP Pass is really strong, especially if you go second with an Irida, get the Battle VIP Pass, get one of Water Pokemon, and you can set up the entire bench. That's why I've gone down to a 3-up because it's not desperately needed. And really, after turn 2, it becomes the Superior Energy Retrieval and Ultra Ball fodder. 2 Nest Ball, 3 Ultra Ball is pretty much standard right now. Potentially could argue to a 3-3, but in my testing and space-wise, this is where I'm at. Then 4 Rare Candy and 4 Superior Energy Retrieval. These aren't really any explanatory. You need the 4 Rare Candy because we're playing basically a 5-5 stage 2, say 3 lines. So kind of boosting up to them is really exactly where this deck gameplay can work with. And 4 Superior Energy Retrievals just to get any of your energies back is just super, super strong. Supporter line, we play 2 Iona, 2 Boss, and 4 Irida. Iona is really good as a disruptive card. I've kind of really struggled with this sort of deck here because you're not adding that pressure of disruption. Normally only 1 Iona and 1 Avery, but I'm going to try out just 2 Ionas because I think 2 Ionas can really help especially in the late sort of game. If your opponent takes a good sort of lead, they might be at 2 prices and they're not playing any of these really powerful draw supporters like Curlier, so Pokemon Curlier, Radiant Greninja, or Comfy. You can really slow down your opponent's sort of setup. 2 Boss's Orders because you want to try and like reuse that play with the Canceling Clone, and I generally think Gusting is strong. And 4 copies of Irida. We pretty much play solely water Pokemon, and it can easily get out your Rare Candy plus Pokemon, which I generally love. Now, the 3 Lost City, I think this is kind of where Chien-Pao might go with. I've played so many different stadium cards with Chien-Pao. I've played Collapse Stadium. I've played Pokestop. I've played Skaters Park. But I generally think Lost City is exactly where Chien-Pao should work with. Because of its bad matchups, getting rid of potentially 2 Gardevoirs or even just 1 Gardevoir, and they can really slow down the opponent with what they have to work with. So they play the Gardevoir EX, you knock out a Gardevoir EX with Lost City, that can really slow down the gameplay. And 10 copies of Water Energy, it's exactly what you desperately need in the style deck here. You could potentially go down to 9 if you're really worried about space, but 10 is just really helpful, helping with consistency, helpful continually getting the attacks, and so you don't need to rely too much on superior end retrievals every single turn. Now, the rest of it, this matchup here, you can see it's got pretty positive overall. Generally, I think it's really good Gardevoir and Lost Box matchup, purely because of having the Pidgeot can really help that consistency, boosting up to get any card you might want to have in the game, gain that Cancer Clone, gain that Boss's Order, so you can really get the pieces all together to get those easy KOs on those Mana Fees and the Curlies on the bench. Lugia V-Star, I do think you can really good because you can pretty much outpace them is really good, and you have single prize Pokemon, and potentially you can kind of like team up with that, try and get some KOs on the Archeops, or potentially just go into those Lugias. You don't need to rely too much on worrying about attacking with any of V-Star. Your Palkia is good, but it could be a bit of a detrimental. But you know, if they want to get those big one-hit KOs on the Pokemon, they are going to be discarding some cards from their deck. And Dark Charizard, because Charizard can take a little bit of time to set up, you're bringing in a good matchup overall, I generally feel like. Negative ones are definitely some Arceus builds. I think Arceus builds, when they can just slap out on a Path Judge after a star buff, that can really hold out your detrimental game plan. That's why I think the Umbreon build potentially could be a bit scarier, because they can get that Umbreon, they can get that Gusting effect, they can get the easy KOs in Pokemon, and if you don't get your setup correctly, they can really steamroll you with that Path, Iona, or Judge. And me VMAX, I generally think is a real struggle. I think Fusion build is still a bit more turned on to be a much stronger version, but if they are playing the Path build, you can really struggle in that style of matchup at times, because they can just like gust up any of your Excaliburs whenever they set up, have that Path to Peaks, can really slow down your game plan whatsoever. Pidgeot could potentially help a little bit more by getting the potential cards you might need, but you can really struggle in these style of decks. So overall, I generally think Chien-Pao could potentially be a tier 1 archetype, purely because of how powerful Pidgeot EX really adds to this deck. Getting that extra consistency and that Forest Seal Stone pretty much every single turn can really help with you getting any of the unique cards you might need to have to kind of orders to win the game. Do I think this deck is definitely got contendency? Yes, because we've seen its huge success over in Japan, over in online tournaments, and we'll go see how it's like over in Worlds this weekend. I generally think Chien-Pao is going to be in a really good spot, definitely to stay. And 151, it only gets better because it gets the good Pidgeot Pidgey, which can search your deck for any basic Pokemon, put it onto the bench. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and please remember to leave a like and subscribe and comment down below. Do you think Chien-Pao will be a tier 1 deck? Do you think this has potential to really save Chien-Pao, and this would be a deck we should definitely be considered and worried about in going into the future? My name is TCG, and I hope you guys have enjoyed this deck profile. I'll see you guys soon.